mental health for the last few weeks. So I'm grateful and thankful. So I'm glad to be back.
Oh,
Happy Tuesday.
yeah. Happy
Don't
Tuesday. I'm gonna
don't
jump on
don't
in.
give me
Listen,
credit. Don't give me
I
credit.
was just about to tell you that we've been doing really well. We've been really doing really well. I feel like I'm talking loud, but anyway, Zandra, yeah, it is good to have you back, and so we can jump on in and bring Megan on, and let's hear what she
Great,
has to say tonight.
great. Now coming to the stage, Megan Hamm.
Yes.
Hey,
How you
Hey, Miss
doing?
Ham, how are you?
I'm doing well. Well, thank y'all so much for having me, and thank you for the introduction. I
Oh,
definitely was thinking about, okay, well, Megan, what parts of it are we going to talk about? And I just think that tonight we can talk about it all. I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I am an open book. I am very open to answering people's questions to the best of my ability, given my experience. But I'm Megan Hamm. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a registered play therapist. I'm the owner of Time for Change Counseling, which is a private practice mental health agency in Brookhaven, Mississippi. Most recently, I am the author of The Heart of the Matter, a compassionate approach to transforming behaviors in foster and adoptive children.
Hmm.
I feel like the book is my pivot, I would say,
Hmm.
to move into more of identifying who are the people that I'm supposed to work with. Like, where does that
Wow.
mission take me? And so I wrote the book. But the thing, people have, so since I wrote the book, people have been asking me, well, what made you decide to write a book and all of that? But honestly, this was not supposed to be my first book.
Hmm.
I have another book that is written in a journal, and I have not done anything with it. I hadn't published it. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't gotten it formatted. But I feel like this book was supposed to be first for so many reasons. One of the things that now in my life, I feel like my life mission is to be able to empower foster and adoptive parents to be able to navigate those meltdown behaviors so that they can have better relationships with their children, but also to be able to rediscover the joy of parenting.
Hmm.
I am a fan of the show, so I always watch the show.
Thank you.
Mostly I
Thank you. Thank
watch
you.
replay. So I had to tell myself tonight, well, maybe you have to be here on time tonight. And one of the things that I love about the show is that you all always talk about, the village and talk about the things that are going on and talk about, how we come together as a community, and what are those roles that we have. And so definitely I'm excited to be here tonight, to continue to add to that conversation.
Absolutely.
We're
And we are
excited to have
ecstatic.
you.
Yes, we're very excited to have you. So Jarvis typically starts us out. So Jay, what's your first question tonight?
well, I was gonna say you can have it this week. Zan been off a week. She had plenty of rest. I was gonna let one of y'all start today if y'all want to go.
Well,
Well,
mental
let's
health,
just not.
Zandra.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it said, yeah. That's where I'm at right now. So let's talk about coping at a time of a loss, because that's where I'm at. I promise I'm not gonna cry tonight, y'all. I promise I'm not gonna cry.
Okay.
But how would you suggest coping, or what are some coping mechanisms for like a traumatic loss? Like I lost my grandmother. So how do you cope with that, or what's your suggestions?
The first thing I always tell people when they are coping with anything, especially like a traumatic loss, is to honor your feelings. Right? A
Mhm.
lot of times we want to get back into the swing of things. We don't want it to hurt as bad. We don't want it to feel like the way we feel.
Okay, Megan, you can stop.
but but what we're doing is, we're kind of sweeping it under the rug because we've
Right,
always had that idea of, what is grief and how do we deal with it. So the
right.
first thing we do is we honor those feelings. Whatever you feel it and be okay with feeling it. Right?
Mhm.
When it comes to grief, everybody's journey is different, and you get to take your time and you get to decide what today looks like. You get to decide what tomorrow looks like, and you get to decide what the next day looks like. Especially when there are children involved, I always encourage people to grieve with your children.
Mm,
We give this facade that, we're supposed to be strong and we're not supposed to cry and we're supposed to stay strong for other people. But really what that does is it actually alienates people who are struggling because it makes them feel like, well, if she's not crying, then why am I crying? Or if she's dealing with it in a certain way, then why am I not able to deal with it in a certain way? And so it will make, we as adults sometimes we'll go to our room and close our door and we will grieve in private, but it makes the other people around us feel like, well, maybe I'm doing this thing wrong because I don't see everybody else breaking down like I'm breaking down. So I would definitely say honor your feelings and whatever you're feeling, and that's okay.
That's good. I like
I
that,
mean, it's
Megan.
deep because I mean, Jen and I talk just about every day, and that is one of the things through my whole journey. That's even before this,
Mhm.
that's one of the things she always say. It's okay to feel what you feel. Those are your
Mhm.
feelings. So thank you for again validating the feelings.
Mhm.
You know, it's a moment. It is a moment, and like you say, everybody copes different. So it's just learning to cope right now.
Yeah. And it's every day. And another thing is like you can have a good Monday, a good Tuesday, a good Wednesday, and Thursday you feel like you just want to throw in the towel. That does not
Mhm.
mean that you're going backwards. That does not mean
Mhm.
that something is wrong. That just means that on Thursday I needed time. And so on
Mhm.
Friday I'll try to pick it back up again. Or, one of my biggest things that I tell people is even if you need to take a break, just put on clean pajamas. If you want to lay in the
Mhm.
bed all day,
Mm.
right, and do
Mhm.
absolutely nothing, go take you a hot shower, put on your clean pajamas, get your snacks, and you sit in the bed all day and do absolutely nothing
Mhm.
and be
Thank you,
okay
because
with
that's all. So okay.
And tell
I
them
mean,
to
I
wash the
think.
sheets too now. Tell them to wash the sheets too. Get some clean sheets. You don't
I
want
mean, this is good because that's where I met. I'm like, I don't want to get up my bed. I don't want, and it's just like I feel. I feel like this has turned into me today, but I feel like everything is piled up on one thing after another. I mean, my grandmother was 96. She lived an amazing life. And that's not the grieving. I think the grieving for me is just a matter of fact that I can't call and hear her voice. So
Mhm.
it's a different type of grieving for each of us. But it's like one thing on top of another. So I guess coping with life right now with a loss on top of a loss on top of a loss, or I feel numb. And I told Jen that. How do you, or what am I supposed to do? Because everybody's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. So help us out in that because I know I'm not the only one that feels numb in times like these or don't know how to feel or what to feel, or I'm just confused in all my feelings. I hope
Mhm.
I'm making sense.
It does.
Mhm.
And I think what it is that you're confused in all of your feelings because, and not you as in Zandra, but when we are
Right.
grieving, because we have these expectations that other people have
Mhm.
given us of what we're
Come on.
supposed to be feeling. And
Mhm.
so if I feel like I want to laugh, then I got somebody in the background like, well, how can you laugh at a joke and your grandmother just died? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or if I feel like I want to go out and get something to eat, well, how can you be somewhere smiling and you just had this loss? And honestly, we have a bad habit in our culture, and I'm gonna say our culture, of asking people how you feeling, right? That is a very loaded question. And the reality is we don't always know. And so one of the things I encourage people to do is don't ask nobody how they feeling. And I know I guess that sounds like the opposite of what a mental health therapist would tell you. But honestly, it's a loaded question. So I try to be more, and I encourage people to be more specific and not saying, oh, well, how are you feeling today? But saying, if there's anything I can do, I'm here to help you. Or if you need support, I'm here. Or even just doing the thing. If you know that somebody may need, somebody to send them a DoorDash or send Uber Eats to their house, you ain't got to call me and ask me that. Send Uber Eats to my house if you have my address,
I'll
right?
download my address to you. Who wants it? No, I'm just saying. But that's
I
Megan,
think
that is really good.
that's
Yeah, because what you're saying is that as friends and community, we should be more proactive versus reactive, right? Don't sit there and ask the person. You know that they're going through, so why
Mhm.
ask them? So how you feeling? Well, how you think they feeling? But I wanted to go back to where you said, man, it gave me goosebumps. But to allow time for yourself. You were talking about putting on your pajamas, getting in the bed. Sometimes we we're such a fast go culture, right? Everything is kind of microwave-ish. And we feel like it's instant gratification. Everything has to be instant. And we oftentimes feel that if we're not doing anything per se, we're not doing anything. But you're doing a big thing when you stop and you settle yourself. When you stop and say, listen, today I'm just going to lay in the bed. You're doing something big because you're giving yourself rest. You're giving yourself time to reset, to rethink, to reactivate. I mean, dive into the importance of just being true to thine own self and saying, hey, if you don't take care of yourself and your mental, I heard a young man say coming out of a restaurant the other day, he was telling a young lady to take care of her mental. He said, because if you don't take care of your mind, then you lose everything else. And I was like, you just said something. That's what kids like. You just said, if you don't take care of your mind, so sometimes it's imperative to have people like a Megan Good, different counselors. And I even want to talk about that. I know we're kind of all over the place because this conversation is necessary. But when we don't know how to unpack all of our thoughts, that's why we have professionals who are skilled that can help us say, okay, let's start with A, B, C. And so I know I said a whole lot there, but you can just kind of dive in and talk about, let's hit on the importance of taking care of your mental health. And if you don't, how you can really lose yourself.
I think part of it is, mental health is health. And we look at
Mm-hmm.
the physical health, and if something's going on, we'll go to the doctor. I mean, we'll run to the doctor, we'll run to the emergency room, the urgent care, anybody. But when it comes to our mental health, we sometimes don't feel like we need to, or we don't feel like we have to. And a lot of times, like, we have a society that is, like you said, instant gratification, and we worship the hustle culture. We feel like that we should always be doing something. There was I can't remember which rapper it was, but he said, I'll sleep when I die. Who was that? I'm not saying that, right? So it's kind of like that idea of I have to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And we all probably know somebody who was saying, I was going, 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 and then my body couldn't go anymore, and I had to sit down. I had to take rest, right? And so my encouraging word would be, we know it's going to happen. So what can we do to intentionally be able to take rest, to realize that sometimes the thing doesn't need to be done right now. If we prioritize what we want to do and what we need to be done, I'm not saying that it never has to be done, but doesn't have to be done right now. Going back to even, some of our upbringing, I remember where, there's some people I talk to who, like, on Saturday morning, mom would get up, grandma would get up, turn the music on, clean the house up. There was no such thing as laying in the bed and resting on a Saturday, right? So even getting out of school, the kids get out of school, they come straight home, they do homework, they go straight into get your room clean, get the dishes clean, do your chores, do your laundry. And we don't always put the time in to rest because we feel like people should always be doing something. And so if that's the message that you get at home, then when you get to McDonald's or somewhere and your manager say, if you can lean, you can clean, right? We've all heard that. So there is no time in our life where somebody says you need to rest. You get on a job, they give you work 40 hours a week for 52 weeks, and it earns you 40 hours a week off. Right? So that's not rest culture, that's hustle culture. And so I think part of it is we have to recognize the importance of rest for ourselves, and we have to be able to set those boundaries. And so if you have certain times that you are saying, you know what, I'm going to stay at home and I'm going to do absolutely nothing, then that's what you do. Even though it feels like nothing, it feels like, I should be doing something or I should be doing something else, but we have to be able to just take a rest. And like Dale said, that actually is a trauma response.
It is. Yes,
like,
Dale, I totally agree.
Sometimes I could be sitting at home on a random Friday night watching TV, and the thought comes to my mind, you could be sweeping the floor. You could be vacuuming. You could be in there deep cleaning that kitchen, and I have to stop myself, like, no, not tonight.
That's good.
And so we have to do that.
I love it. I
It's
absolutely
amazing.
love it.
It's
Go
good.
ahead,
It's
Jarvis.
good.
Look, I'm just listening, but I can only identify with the part of what you said. Like they'll say going into a trauma response. I
Hmm.
lost somebody in my family, and as Zandra said, it happened in combination with some other stuff. And the only thing I can remember was working nonstop. I
Mm,
went into a work mode and I blocked out everything else, probably for about a year. It was good because when to me, when you're going through something, usually you do what you're good at. Like you
Right.
go to a safe place and I'm good at work. Like I know how to work. I know how to do my thing. And so I blocked out a lot. And probably that whole year right after, I probably can't tell you nothing significant that happened because I really didn't think about a lot. So when I say that, coming from a male perspective, I think men do that a lot where we just block out and we just go into like a little zone and we go tunnel vision and go straight down that way. Is that something you see for men or is it a man and woman thing? Because I don't know if women do that as well.
I think it comes from both. I see it, and actually, I see it in men and women. And a lot of times, we will pour into other people, especially when we're
Mm-hmm.
parents. And so, we're pouring into our children. And so, one of the things I always encourage is when it comes to coping skills, you have to practice the coping skills. So, like now is the time to practice a coping skill so that when you something happens, you already know what works for you. One of the things I tell my younger kids is, practicing coping skills is like buying an umbrella, right? Most of us have umbrellas. Most of us, right? If we're responsible adults, right? But we mostly have umbrellas, even though it's not raining today. But we don't wait until it rains to run in the store and get an umbrella. It used to always be a joke that when it rains, Walmart would put the most expensive umbrellas in the front, right? Because
That's
they
the
knew
truth.
everybody need
That's
one.
the truth. I worked at CVS and Walmart. That's the
So they're
factual
gonna
truth.
do that.
That's a real thing.
And so the thing about our life and our coping skills are, even if you have this coping skill, and I'm just practicing it, I'm just buying my umbrella, even though it's not raining, I'm practicing it because this is the thing I like to do. It may be golfing, it may be reading, it may be writing, it may be, hanging out with your friends. But then, so when the issue comes or the thing comes, I already know things that I can do to get me back to where I need to be. I don't have to go run out in the pouring rain to go to Walmart to buy an expensive umbrella. And I think that is the importance of coping.
I think that is so good. When I was being initiated back in school, the first thing they taught us was proper preparation prevents poor performance, and
Mhm.
I start using that for every area of my life, even myself, because I'm such a giver, right? And that's my strength to give, 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 give. And even now, my friends have to say, "Hold up, you got to take care of yourself. You got to think about yourself." And I think that in today's time, we've made it almost a sin or a bad thing to put yourself first. Because as the kids say, normalize. I don't know that we normalize self care as we should. I see it trending more now, especially social media. They talk about self care and nails and all those things are important. But I'm talking about just taking a moment of peace, serenity, just getting in a place of calmness and allowing your mind to rest. And I'm telling you, when you do that, my life has been so much better because I'm just learning to stop and settle myself. And sometimes when I'm doing lives, I say, settle yourself. Because guess what? I'm practicing that daily. Okay, Jennifer, you've done this, that, and that. Now it's time for you to rest. I just told Jarvis earlier, like, I don't feel like doing nothing. And I didn't do anything till it was time for this live.
Hmm. And
Mhm.
we do. And I think, and so in the book, there is actually a chapter on self care for parents and caregivers because what happens is we are trained and we're taught from when we're young that
Mhm.
once you have kids, your life is about your kids. right?
Woo.
And so we
Yep.
are taught that, nope, you had that baby, you take care of that baby. You make sure your kids are straight. And I talk to so many moms and so many parents who are like, when I ask them, well, what do you do for self-care? And they're like, well, as long as my kids are right, I'm all right. No,
Mhm.
because you can't control your kids being all right. That's the
Mhm.
first thing, right? You are putting
That's
your
good.
you are putting your ability to take care of yourself on what somebody else chooses to do, right? And I don't like that for people. And another thing is when it comes to self-care, being able to, when you go on an airplane, the first thing they do is if something happens, you put your mask on first because you can't do nothing for nobody else if you just fell out in the floor, right? And so a lot of times, but our culture sometimes will make us feel like we are being selfish if we don't give 175% to our children at all times, or to our spouse, or to our parents, because you only got one mama. And those are the conversations that we're having in the back of our head when we say, well, you know what? This is the thing that I want to do for myself. For me and my self-care journey, I honestly used to think that self-care was being able to go to Walmart without my kids.
That part.
When people say, and then people say, well, what do you like to do for yourself? And I used to say, like, oh, I love seeing my girls, compete and cheer. And I realized that I had, even as a therapist, I had conditioned my self-care around other people's things and what they like doing. And I realized I don't like sitting in that heat. I love to see my children perform. I don't like sitting in that heat. Like, that's just the reality of it. So that's not
Right.
self-care to me. So being able to think about for yourself, what are those things that you can do? And in the chapter, I talk about the importance of, because one of the things that we talk about is time. Oh, Megan, I don't have time for that. I don't have time. Like, I don't have time. Where's the time? Where's the time? And so I always tell people to steal away 15 minutes. If you take 15 minutes out of your day to do something that's unapologetically selfish for yourself, your whole day will be different. I don't care what it is. It could be a dance party. It could be listening to music. It could be, getting your nails done. It could be taking a long shower. It could be whatever, but just 15 minutes a day that you schedule the same way that you schedule other stuff, and you don't let somebody come in and say, well, no, I need you to do this instead of doing your self-care time.
I'll
So
just breathe. I know.
go ahead, Zane, if you got something.
No,
On
no, no. Go ahead.
and
It's just
that's very accurate because on my little mental health journey with my therapist, that was one of the things. Is I was going for stress management, working in
Mm-hmm.
a high stress job. That was one of the things, and she would ask me like, well, "What do you do for yourself?" I'm like, "I don't know." But the problem was, I was sneaking and doing things for myself. Like I feel like I almost had to lie about my private time because I didn't want nobody else to feel like I neglected them, if that made sense.
It
So
does. It
you
does.
see what I'm saying? Like, and it sounded kind of crazy, but then once I got it all balanced out and realized, like, oh, like everybody needs some time. Putting my phone in personal mode because I work a job that's 24/7. It
Mm-hmm.
is no, I'm off. I had to realize, like, oh, I can like turn my phone off for a little bit. You get what I'm saying? Like, it was a
right.
lot of little things that I had to kind of learn in my grown age that, like, oh, like this cool, like I can do this, and and this is where I was headed with this in doing the thing, like you said, getting that break or getting that uh
Mental health.
self time, that self time, I grew anxiety. What do you do about that? Because the separation from the thing actually can cause anxiety. You know what I'm saying?
Look, your wife just
Separation
told on you
from
too.
And
to be
yeah, she's
selfish.
right. Right,
So the
because
thing,
I would make sure everybody was good before I do my thing, but
uh-huh.
she's very true.
Yeah. And I guess I would say the separation from what thing. And I would also, I would be curious to know what is your relationship with the thing? Because it's not necessarily the separation with the thing. The anxiety, because anxiety, when I think about anxiety and when I teach about anxiety, anxiety is the fear of. A lot of times it's the fear of the past or it's the fear of the future. It has nothing to
Mm,
do with the present. Right. And so we worry about things that we have absolutely no control over. Right. So people who, when anxiety comes up around a certain situation or a certain thing, then my question to that person is, what is your relationship with that thing? What are the thoughts around it? And then what is that fear that comes with it? Because it's
My
not the thing, it's something else.
look, and I'm gonna block my wife because she be on trying to tell all my business.
She
But
didn't told. She didn't told it all. She didn't told it
because
all.
I have a very weird relationship with not just control but influence. I want to be able to influence and control most of the things that are around me, but when I
Mm-hmm.
can't, it gives me anxiety. Like I don't
Mhm.
like when something's completely out of my hands. Like it's nobody I can talk to, there's nothing I can do to make the thing work. So I try to make sure that I have a backup plan for the backup plan for the other plan. You know what I'm saying? As my father would say, when everybody's asleep, I'm awake. I'm thinking. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about how to get to another level. And when that falls, like I go into a full like panic mode. It makes me very antsy.
That's me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of times, and not to, because I definitely am not diagnosing anybody, but a lot of times that anxiety and that, like you said, that need to have control in our culture, that is a response to trauma. And
Mm.
trauma, because when I talk about trauma is not just, I had a car wreck and almost died, or had a house fire and almost died. Trauma could just be those microaggressions that we've all encountered are traumatic, right? What was the story that somebody told you as a Black man growing up in Mississippi, right? And so what we do in our life is we try to control as much of that narrative as we can, and when we can't, we get anxious about it, right? And so my encouraging word to you, or anybody out there who is having a lot of anxiety around, like, how can I just let go? How can I just let it go and do the self-care without, my world falling apart? And the thing I tell people is, because you teach yourself that when it falls apart, I know how to pick it back up.
That's good, Mickey.
My self-care anxiety used to be, and I don't know if my husband is watching or not, but when I would leave the house, he let the girls do stuff that they know they don't do when I'm there, right? And one of them is playing glitter. I have this thing, I keep glitter, but I hate glitter because it gets everywhere. And so when he's there, because in order to keep them calm, he let them play in glitter. But who's the one that comes home and has to pick the glitter up?
Right.
Me. So my anxiety about leaving the house and going to get my nails done and going to dinner with my sisters was, man, when I get back there,
Coming
my
back to glitter.
I was
right,
gonna be told.
it's gonna be everywhere. But I've learned to tell myself at the end of the day, we know how to pick glitter up. And
Mm.
so even if I get home and the glitter is there, we know how to clean the glitter up. And that's how I
Wow.
remind myself that, whatever happens, I have a plan for it, or I know that I'll be okay on the other side of it. And that's what helps me with when that self-care, that lack of control anxiety comes in.
And I'm with Jarvis. Um, when when you can't shut your mind off, it's a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
issue. And that's me. I can never shut my mind off. Like I feel like, I mean, I know I'm thinking when I'm sleeping. It's just that bad that I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, I got to remember to do that in the morning. Like
Uh-huh.
my mind never shuts down. And I think that's well, I know that's part of our problem. So tell us how, for people like me, how do I get to that point where I shut it down? Even when I do the me time, how do I shut that thing down where I just can woosah for a moment, even in
Mm-hmm.
my sleep?
So part of it is, the thoughts that we have are automatic thoughts. They just come. Like nobody wakes up in the morning and say, I want to just think about random stuff all day. We don't do that. They're automatic thoughts and they're random. And the first thing we have to do is have that awareness that that thought is there and that they may come. And then we have to be able to challenge it, right? So I definitely deal with overthinking to the point where sometimes I binge watch TV, and my family could attest to this. I binge watch TV so I don't have to think, right? That
Mm-hmm.
maybe is not the healthiest way to do it. That's how I do it. But when I am teaching people, what I tell people is one thing is like guided imagery, right? So guided imagery forces you to listen to the words of somebody else and to stay present in the moment. because that anxiety, remember, is about either the past or the future, and we're not being present in the moment. So the number one
Mm.
thing that somebody who struggles with overthinking can do is stay present in the moment. What is going on for me right now in this moment? And that might include taking deep breaths. That might include keeping a note on your phone where you say, okay, these thoughts are coming up and these thoughts may be important. One of the things that I started doing, because when I have a hard time sleeping because I'm overthinking, is I keep a journal beside my bed. And if I feel like it, I'll get up and I'll write. But if not, I will make a note in my phone, like a voice note, whatever that thing is that's on my mind. Because once I get it out, I'm able to lay back down and go to sleep. But
Mm.
for some reason, I'm feeling like, oh, that's important right now. And then when I go back to the note, it's just jibber jabber sometimes. I'm like, why was you up thinking about 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. So I would definitely say to find some mindfulness activities that can help you stay in the moment, right?
Got it.
Okay, Dr. Samantha says
Okay,
when
go ahead.
when you identify the relationship you have with the thing that makes you anxious, what steps do you take after you identify it? It is a great question to evaluate, but wondering about the process afterwards.
Well, a lot of times, once you identify your relationship, then you can identify, is this something, is this about my control? Is this about a fear? Is this about the past? Is this about the present? And then it's about being able to, like I said, with me, it was about going home and having to clean up glitter. And so my plan for that was, we know how to clean up glitter. And so that would be the conversation I would tell myself. And so the thing is usually about a sense of control. Some people want to control stuff more than others, but everybody wants to be in control of something. That's just
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that's just human nature. We
Yeah.
want to be able, and we want it to be predictable.
The
The
feeling,
biggest
the
thing
feeling out of
is,
the feeling of being out of control gives me anxiety. I do not like
mhm,
being out of control. That gives me
yeah,
anxiety.
and we want it to be predictable. And so if I could tell you nothing else, is to be able to identify if the thing happens, you have to know that you already have everything within you that you can do to overcome the thing,
Wow.
whatever
This
it is.
this is so good. One of the things, and I just want to add to that because one of the things that I had to do with my anxiety is I had to begin to give myself grace to create the space that made me feel safe.
Hmm.
And so you know what I do when I get anxiety? They probably can attest. I start coloring. I'm like a little 7-year-old girl and I love to color. And then I show my coloring to, I'm like, hey y'all, look what I did. That makes me happy. That makes me feel safe. It may sound, it may sound, childish to some, but it's good for me because I'm doing something that I like. It brings out my creativity. And I remember even when I was working on a project, one of my therapists said to me, what is it you like to do, Jennifer? And I said, I love to, like now, I love colors. I love to color. She said, that's when your creativity flows. And I'm telling you, if I want to, thank you, Holy Spirit, because I need to work on something right now. So I need to pick up my coloring book and start coloring because I'm free. It releases the thoughts of all that other stuff and it allows me a free, safe space. So, Zandra, you love the water.
I love water.
You love the water. That's a
So
I
common
love
mechanism
water.
for you.
so
Go ahead, Jay.
this is a good thing that y'all guys bring up because and I see it's different for everybody, but even if the people are watching, can y'all put something in the comments that what do you guys do when the anxiety hits y'all? You know what I'm saying? Like I'll still play video games at 41 years old because I put on
Hmm.
the headphones. Nobody can talk to me. I'm playing the thing. I also like to go and people watch. I will go pick a random downtown city. I will go find a restaurant. I will go eat, have me a drink, and talk to complete strangers
Hmm.
because they have no bearing on my life at that moment. And
Hmm.
it
Right.
gives me relief because I'm just talking to a random person. I can tell them whatever I want to tell them. It's not like they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I do know Jennifer." You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like,
Hmm.
and that's a big thing. And as Miss Linda, I can understand giving it to God, but sometimes it be rough, baby. I can't.
I mean, I'm gonna let me talk on that. I give it to God, but then I do go to the water. I mean,
Yeah.
I
And,
I give it to God. I'm not saying that I'm holding on to something I can't hold on to. I totally give it to God, but I need after I give it, I need to just I
Mhm.
need to
Wusa. And
Right.
so Dr. Shay said, I buy and read books. Creating a bookstagram has done wonders for my exam.
Oh yeah,
That's
everybody
beautiful.
go. Make sure
Mhm.
you put that in the comments, like I say about the bookstagram. Xandra been on the bookstagram, all of that.
That's beautiful.
And look,
I'm a book.
Nurse Danny, we can't let you get off the hook. You need to spin the block.
Nurse
Come
Danny,
on by the
tell us
show.
what you do.
Come on by
Tell
the
us
show
what
too,
you do
baby.
to free
Yeah.
your anxiety. But let me say something about going to God because He is my life, right? In my lifeline. I can't live without Him. But He gives us gifts, talents, creativity. And my husband talks about the talents and things all the time. And so even in those moments of giving it to God, then faith without works is dead. What
Hmm.
God I have a painting on my wall that I painted. I'm gonna tell Bashir to come and get it for me. If you watching, Bashir, come get the painting for me down. But um, what are those things that you like to? How do you express yourself? Because one thing about it, we know Jesus not coming down off his throne to come and sit and dine with us, right? He gives us people, places, things to explore. And so, even as we give it to God, I think that we have to find a way to freely give ourselves grace to create the space that makes us feel safe. And the Holy Spirit will lead you to that. So I believe in giving it to God, but there's some. So let me show y'all this. I know it's a whole lot, but this is my painting. And when I painted this, I was actually, because all this is kind of dark, there was a dark, windy moment, but it kind of contrasts into a brighter situation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you. And so my husband did painting like it too, and his looked totally different from mine. But when we talk about these paintings, this is what that moment, this is the moment that I was experiencing. But after I finished the painting, it was like, whoops, as you just said, it
Yeah.
was,
Alexa, that's a
yeah,
good one. Sitting in nature, I do
reading.
like to go ride the four wheeler.
Mhm.
Like
That's
I go ride the
that's
four
Thank you.
wheeler, just go
that's
hanging
a
out. That
Thank you.
sort of thing. That's a big one.
listen, Jarvis. That's a cousin thing because, like I said, I sit in water,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
And so, and one
there.
of the things I would definitely,
Thank you, Dr. Shay. That's good.
one of the things
Give
I
it
would
to God.
encourage everybody on the call is don't wait until the anxiety hits, right?
Mm,
We schedule the time and we be intentional. Because when I'm talking to people, I explain it like, everyday life, if you have a jar can only hold so much water, right? And so everyday life is just gonna, let's say, just waking up and being a mom and an entrepreneur and a mental health therapist already has my jar half full. And then don't let me go somewhere and like something happens or I have a flat tire. Okay, something else has been added to my jar. Let me get a phone call and it's a crisis situation that's been added to my jar. And at some point, my jar is going to overflow. And so
hmm.
the purpose of self-care is that every day I might wake up in the morning and my jar is half full just because I am a mom and an entrepreneur. I can't quit the job and I can't throw the kids away. So that's just there. So what I have to do is I have to intentionally decide that I'm going to do something to pour some of the water out. I'm going to do something that's self-care, whether it be coloring, whether it be paint, whether it be being in nature, being by water. If being by water is your thing, then I would say every week you should put yourself by water on purpose.
On purpose.
I do.
Oh, I love it.
Don't wait for the anxiety to come. If it's playing your video games, and I don't know, your wife might not like me to tell you this, but maybe it's at night. If it's a common thing for you, every night give yourself 30 minutes to play your video game just because it's your coping mechanism, not because you feel like, oh, I'm gonna just play the game. If it's coloring, get you a coloring book and every day color some of the pages. One of the things that I started doing with some of my adolescents when they come in is the first 10 minutes I have some adult coloring pages. And so the first 10 minutes they come in, we play some calming music and we just color. We don't even have to talk about nothing. We actually don't talk about anything. So for the first few minutes, we come in and we just color, because I realize they don't have many places in their life where they just to get be present in the moment.
In the moment.
You
Thank you.
know,
That's
and
good.
so we do that and we center ourselves, and then we can start talking about the thing. But we don't come in talking about this, and this, you know, and sometimes they feel like when they come into therapy, they have to be on, right? But we take those few minutes, and I have definitely seen a lot of changes in just the way that we do therapy after that when they have that time to calm down.
That's a
Nurse,
good
Dan-
So,
question.
so
Nurse Danny
go
wants to
ahead.
know: do you feel that our family upbringing affects how we handle stress? In my instance, my dad complained every morning, so I know that affects me as an adult.
Girl, yeah, because our family could be the stress. Our family could be the stressor. In the way that we are brought up in our house, it teaches us how to handle certain situations. Sometimes as adults, we're not aware at the things that we do and how it impacts our kids, right? I am a recovering yeller. I tell people all the time, I tell parents all the time, I'm trying to stop. And you know what? My goal is to go home and not yell, and I might go home and yell, but I'm in recovery and it's a day-to-day process, right?
Mm.
But imagine if you were on a job and every time your boss came into the room, they started to yell. What kind of anxiety would that give you as an adult?
Quit.
And so I chill. I know you be looking for another job, all kind of stuff. But our kids can't look for another home. They can't quit mom and daddy. And so if they are coming in and they're dealing with the yelling, or they're dealing with a parent who didn't handle, who argued a lot, or who never talked, or everybody went to their own bedrooms, then those are the things that we bring into our life, and we don't know how to handle stress. We don't know what those stress management techniques are. And a lot of times we don't even realize that the things that are going on are stressful. We just think it's a part of life. We just think we're supposed to always feel that way.
And that's why it's so important that we normalize therapeutic services. It's important to have I was gonna call you Megan Good. I'm sorry, but Megan Ham. It's important to have an Alexia Irvin. It's important to have a Mickey King, all a Dr. Samantha Murphy, all these, even Adele Gray that we had last week. She talked about how therapeutic cooking can be right. And so it's important. But let's hit Dale's question. That was good. Go
And
ahead, Joe.
she said that in her childhood she was like she got taught to shut down. That and
Mhm.
it's surprising that Dale is from South Africa, but it's still a very southern thing where people say children should be seen and not
Seen and
heard.
not heard. Right.
Mhm.
And she said when she tried to express herself, that it got shut down so much that she just taught herself to do that. She got kind of trained to do it and say it's okay and whatever's going on. You know what I'm saying?
It's
How
like
does
we
that
train
kind of fit
ourselves
in?
to get
Mhm.
right. It's like we train ourselves to overlook what we truly feel. It's like we train ourselves to overlook that our feelings and our voice matter. So I understand where she's coming from, and we probably all do, but we trained ourselves to do that. That's
So
how.
let me say this before we go any further too. I think that's a big part of having a therapist that you
Hmm.
can
Right.
identify
Hmm.
with.
Hmm.
You get
Hmm.
what I'm
Right.
saying? A therapist
Mhm.
that you can identify with in
To
some
unpack.
vernacular, right? Some vernacular that us black folks use. You can't you you can't
Can't.
It's
tell certain
true.
therapists that, and because
Mhm.
it's not gonna connect, it's not gonna identify. So I think it's very important to talk to a black therapist. And I tell my wife that because she's just opened her own private practice, and I'm like, people are gonna be there for you because
Uh-huh.
they need to find somebody they can talk to. They
Right.
might want to speak in a because black people almost speak in a code to where
Hmm.
you got to be black to
Mhm.
understand the code. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I think that's a very big deal. Like even with, like you said, if you're talking about
That's.
Alexa, she's at the school. These kids are gonna come in talking in a language that she
That she
understands.
understands.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
that is so true because I had a Caucasian therapist, and she didn't she just I mean she couldn't tell
Yes,
me
Dr.
nothing, and I was like, I feel even now I feel like, well, what did I spend all that money in therapy for? And I feel like I ain't got nothing accomplished, and this 4 years later, what did you help me do? So
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think being able to have somebody that, because even within the black community, we all have different. ways we see things and different upbringings and all of that. But I think being able to have somebody that looks like you lets you know that, this can be a safe space,
Yeah.
and being
Yeah.
able to, but I know for me, one of the biggest things I had when I moved back to Brookhaven to work community mental health was I can remember I had this lady come in and her thing was she was like, she just had bad nerves. And so my other counterparts didn't understand. Like, I don't know how to diagnose her. What does that mean? And I'm like, girl, she tell me she got bad nerves. That's anxiety. That's playing. But just
That's the
knowing,
cold talk.
and so they're sitting
Hmm.
here like flabbergasted, like just help the lady. But it was just like things like that
Right.
I really did. I used to take for granted until I became a private practice owner, and people would say, "No, I want my kids to see you because I want you to be able to help them in ways that other people won't be able to even know where to
Hmm.
start."
Hmm.
And you
You
understand,
have to
because
be able to reach.
yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
our black people, our flabbers are gassed on a regular. So we need somebody that can catch it real quick, and we may speak in the, like you said, we speak in that that code. You know what I'm saying? Speak
Hmm.
that talk. Like Dr. Shay,
Look,
my nerve bad. Black folk quick to say my nerve bad.
she
This
said
my nerve bad.
we've
They
had
really
nerves
My,
think
bad
it's a
since
real.
15.
yeah, even when you go
I,
into the doctor's office, my sugar up, and they're saying sugar.
What, your
She's a diabetic.
but
The
hey,
things
let us send it.
hemoglobin.
Nerves being bad is a real diagnosis. My
It
Yeah,
nerves are
is.
bad is a real diagnosis. They need to get
yeah.
that added into the medical dictionary. For
I'm
anybody
telling you.
black, when your nerve bad, you, they let you know. Go on about your business now. My nerve bad.
I think I
Mhm.
said that earlier
You know what I'm
today.
saying? My nerve bad.
You
You can add
did.
that one. I think you can add that one, and then next to the last nerve and the last nerve. So there's two different things.
Uh-huh.
Because if you getting on
On
the
my
next to the
last
last
nerve.
nerve, you close. But if you
Yeah,
getting on my last nerve, you don't went too
it's over
far.
with.
It's
It's
over
over
with.
with.
You on my last nerve. The black people, we gotta,
Oh no, I
Mhm.
got one better. A cotton picking nerve. That's mine.
Oh,
you see them. My wife said
yeah.
she used to date some 304s. Yeah, and see if you black, you know what the 304s mean. You know what that is. And
Mhm.
depending on how deep in the streets you was, you may not know what a 304 is. Some of y'all done got saved, but I, I'll tell you what the 304 is later on.
Mhm.
If you inbox, I'll
Okay,
tell you.
Kenyatta said, my children are at the point of looking forward to their weekly therapy session. That's great, Kenyatta. I want them to know proper self-expression. Now I'm gonna tell you, ooh man, you just gave me chills.
That's good. That's good.
That's amazing. Megan, I know, oh my God, every time our time is but listen, let's talk about that, just properly expressing ourselves. Someone said earlier that might have been Dr. Shay that we've been taught, to talking back was disrespectful or expressing yourself was disrespectful and I can only speak about the African American culture. We have, I know one thing that we would always say, especially in the spiritual or Christian world, is like you can't don't question God. But my mom had to come back and say, well, he's your creator, you can ask him a question. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And we've been shut down for so long in our mindset. So we grow up with these thoughts. And then we begin to teach our children bad behavior. So let's talk about self-expression and how do you work with your children in therapeutic service in sessions to help them better express themselves.
So one of the things I do, honestly, I have a conversation with the parent, right?
Mhm.
Because when it comes to self-expression, the thing about it is we can't. I encourage parents not to contain it. Because parents will say, I want them to be able to express themselves. But what they really mean is, I want them to be able to say things that aren't going to make me feel bad and make me feel like I'm being a bad parent. That's what they really want, right? So, one
Mhm.
of the things I encourage my kids is when we come into the therapy space, that is a space where you can just rawly say what is on your mind because
Mhm.
I don't judge what you're saying. And then what
Mhm.
I do is I teach you how to be able to express that to somebody else, to be assertive, but not hurt somebody else's feelings.
I
Because there's
got
a difference in being assertive and being aggressive.
you. Mhm.
Part of that assertiveness is the person who is receiving the message has to be ready to receive the message. Because as a 12-year-old, I can come to you and say, Mom, the thing you said or the thing you did hurt my feelings. And if mom is not really to accept that personal accountability, it's going to be seen as disrespectful. And so, one of the things I tell parents is that when we're coming into this space, this is what the work that I'm going to do. I'm not going to make your child disrespectful. You want your child to come out and have the conversations with you, but I don't want you to think that they're going to come out and have the conversations the way you would want them to have them. Because if they choose to express themselves, and of course, I'm not saying I tell kids that, we don't use curse words and all that. I don't say like, oh, just don't tell them how you feel. No. But if I come to you and say, Mom, this hurt my feelings, or when you say that, or when you do this, it is embarrassing to me, don't take it personally. Because you want them to, and I have parents all the time, I want them to tell me how they feel. I'll be like, no, you don't. You really don't want them to tell you how it feels. You want them to say, Mom, I'm so thankful that you chose to put a roof over my head and keep the lights on. But that ain't how people express how they feel. That's not how people express their hurt. And so part of it is for the parent to be open to allowing the child to express themselves.
So let's do this before we run out of the time. We're getting close. Give us the socials. Give us the book title. If you got the
The
book with you,
handles.
hold it up.
I know
Yeah,
we
give
didn't
us
even
all
scratch
the
the
handles.
surface.
We ain't even got all the way to it there. You know what
Man,
I'm
this is
saying?
good.
Oh,
The
I don't
heart
know.
of the matter.
Heart.
There it
The
goes. Okay,
heart
we
doesn't
can see it.
matter.
Tell us where to find it.
So the book can be bought on Amazon, and there's always a link on my Facebook. My Facebook page is my name, Megan Hamm, and then my business page is Time for a Change Counseling. On TikTok, on Instagram, everywhere else, I'm Megan Hamm LPC. You can follow me, like, and share. You can ask me questions. People ask me questions all the time. I definitely do not mind answering a question. I feel like there are too many
It
gatekeepers
did.
in our community.
Can you
I
talk
just,
about that real
you
quick?
know,
Come on. Give us a little bit
but
more.
I'm the type of person where I'm like, if you ask a question, it's not that I'm trying, that I'm not, I'm a gatekeeper in the sense of I'd rather us have the conversation and me be able to support you than you go out there and try to fiddle faddle on your own and it don't work out. So if
Right.
anybody
Yes.
has a question, I tell people all the time, and anybody who has messaged me know that I definitely will respond and we'll have the conversation. And I think that is just important
And
for us.
so
But
my last question is: are you open for new patients? Are you? What's your just for someone
Or
that
do you do
wants
outdoor counseling? That is that what
I
you ask?
My focus is
or
really on
virtual?
I do children. I do virtual. I see adults. I primarily work with people who are either children who are dealing with traumatic situations or adults who had childhood trauma. Right now, I
That's all of
personally don't.
us.
I know. So right now, I personally don't have any openings for myself. I do have another clinician that works in my office with me, and my goal within the next 5 to 6 months is to grow and to be able to hire other clinicians that can be able to continue the mission and values of Time for a Change Counseling.
This is
Nurse,
beautiful.
Nurse
Congratulations.
Danny, don't act
Congratulations.
like you ain't see me telling you to come on this show before I forget
She
We
again.
ignored
gonna get
you.
her next week. Next
Yeah,
week.
no,
What you doing next
we
week?
got done Underwood next week,
Okay,
so
well
we
the
got
week
the
after
next.
next. I got you, Nurse Dan. Lock
So
you in,
we
babe.
on it. We
We
got you
we
in there.
gonna get you
But
in this month,
man,
lady.
this has been one thing I love about everybody that comes on. Um, we got the engagement here. And that's what I
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
every week, the engagement. We can have a real conversation. We can talk about anything here, and it doesn't seem odd. Even like we had Dale last week, we talked about her journey. Now we got you talking about your own personal journey, and we got two authors back to back, which is amazing. You could go pick up their book. You know what I'm saying? When I was growing up, I didn't know no authors. And like she said, as far as gatekeeping and all that stuff, that's what this show was about. When we talked about the show, we was like, yeah, we want to give everybody our flowers. Like, because to me and to us especially, even the local people are somebody. You get what
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm,
I'm saying? Like you don't
mm-hmm.
have to have a particular flashy job or something to be somebody and do the work in the community and better the people in the community without, uh, kissing some tail, because that ain't what this is about. And we'll
Right.
give people a platform to come on and kind of say what they want to say and do their thing and hopefully make some money in the same process, because we got to have
Absolutely.
money. We all need
Gotta
money.
have it.
So if you got some kids that need some therapy, hit up Megan. What Look up on Facebook, Can they book through Facebook, or how do you usually do that thing?
Well, typically people can call the office, but I've been sending people. I've actually been sending people to Miss Robinson because a lot of times, like there is such a need,
There
but
is.
we just have to be able to find more ways to meet the needs of the people. And
Yeah,
that's why I
absolutely.
do things like writing a book so that you don't have to come sit with me one on one to get the insights to being able to help your child. So definitely thinking about things like that. And so that is where I am journeying into finding ways to be able to help people because one on one it limits the time, it limits the
Hmm.
It
impact, it
does.
limits the influence.
It
And look,
does.
my wife very much appreciates you because she's starting up. I hope
Mhm.
to get both of y'all together so y'all can do something out in the community because she's
We
ready
need
already,
to.
and I think that'll be a good thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is my last thing, and we probably hit it. But I just want you to encourage our viewers. How do we really normalize mental health services or therapeutic services? What are some good ways to encourage others? I mean, I just tell people like, "Hey, have you ever tried therapy?" What's your
I
feedback
think
on that?
part of I think one part of it is being able to have these conversations for
Hmm.
people to know that, the stigma that's associated with mental health is that once you get a mental health diagnosis or you're dealing with anxiety or you're dealing with depression, that's the end of your life. That you can't do
Hmm.
nothing else, you're not going to be successful and all these things. And I think that people like us having a conversation of, I can deal with overthinking, I can deal with anxiety, I can go to therapy, and I can still be successful is the first part. I think the second part is us living up to that. A lot of times we will tell our family, oh, yeah, in one breath, you should go to therapy, you should see somebody. And in the other breath, we calling somebody crazy.
Yeah,
You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, which part of that am I going to believe? And so for me, it's about those words and those interactions with the people around you, because that's what's going to influence people before they even get to me. One of the
Hmm.
questions I ask people is, what is the conversation that you have in your family about therapy? Does your mom know that you're in therapy? And a lot of adults are like, no, they don't know. This is just my secret because they don't have
Hmm.
anybody outside of me that they can say, you know what? I am struggling or I'm having this issue or this thing is going on without somebody judging them. So my encouraging thing to be with everybody that is watching now or watches the replay is that we walk the talk. Like we say that we
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about mental health. We say that we want to encourage people, and we put all these posts up and all these flyers, and we wear green on certain days. But when somebody comes and talk to us, we tell them, "Girl, shake that off. Girl, pray about it. Girl, don't worry
Hmm.
about that. You can't let that stuff bother you." And so what we're telling them is we're dismissing their mental health. We're dismissing the things
Hmm.
they're struggling with. And so that would be my call to action. My call to action would be to walk the talk, right? And being able to actually do the things and encourage people the way that we say we do.
This is
I
Man, you
beautiful.
hit it right
appreciate
on the
you.
dot.
I
You hit it
Yeah.
appreciate
right on the dot. We got our hour. We could go longer, but what we'll do. Oh, wait, before I forget. Happy birthday to my boy Dante Dixon. His birthday just passed.
I know
Happy
Happy
Dante
birthday.
just
birthday.
thank you for supporting Dante.
Right, he's always on here. My girl Natasha Haley, her birthday is today. So happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
Tasha,
Happy
and
birthday. Happy
anybody else's
birthday.
birthday it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that'll be it, y'all, man. We appreciate y'all for coming on. Megan, anytime you want to come back,
Thank y'all.
no
Let
matter
me
what you
know.
selling or whatever you doing or whatever you conference you having, just come back, man. Um, it's a big thing that like I love having people on here, man. Like just having that talk. You know what I'm saying? And getting that stuff out here because a lot of us don't have that talk on a regular or don't have
Right.
people to have to talk with.
So
So
Megan, before we hang up, don't you go. We're gonna next week, you guys, we're gonna have
uh
Alderman at Large,
all
Mr.
them in that
Don
Lord.
Underwood from Brookhaven, Mississippi. So this is going to be very interesting. So share and tag, and we'll find out what's going on in the community from the political world. So
Right, and what's
we're
coming our
excited about
way.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
gonna sit back and sip my tea that next week, y'all.
Well, you got
I'm
because
not doing it
Brookhaven's
with.
been making changes, man. They said we got an
yeah,
Aldi's coming. We just got the Starbucks. You know, it's a lot of things
it's
happening in
growing,
Brookhaven.
growing and
So
going.
if y'all got questions, come on next week. So he'll be here. All right,
Yeah.
man.
Bye,
See y'all
y'all.
later.
See y'all later.